The favourite Bristol City podcast. The final score at Elland Road. Didn't really expect anything else, did we? It finished Leeds United 2, Bristol City 1. I drew some consolation from the fact that a Leeds supporter on Twitter put we were the best side to appear at Elland Road so far this season, in the sense that at least we tried to play football, but no consolation. 11 games into the season, and that Stoke defeat does start to make it look a bang average start, because if we'd have won that one and made it 2-1-3 after the international break, 3-1-2 after the international break, rather than 2 wins, 1 draw, 3 defeats, I think we'd have felt a little bit more buoyant than I certainly feel this morning. Joining me this morning are my 2 regulars, Mark and Ian, as I always do. You first, Mark. Final whistle goes. What might have been or expected? What were your initial thoughts without getting into the detail of the game?
I thought City. There was an inevitability, like you said, about losing to Leeds United. City played with more confidence than they did against Leicester City. They tried to take the game to Leeds, but ultimately were overwhelmed by Leeds' quality, energy, and the amount of chances that they created. City stayed in the game as long as they could, but ultimately the score flattered City, and Leeds could have won the game well before their second goal. And City's subs bench, City's replacements were poor, didn't add anything. Only 2 or 3 players stood out, and these games just show us how far short we are of the quality to be able to make an impact in this division. So ultimately, a frustration as usual.
Okay, Ian, your take on the overall situation?
Well, as usual, the positives first. It was a better display than Leicester. Positive substitutes. At least we tried to affect the game. Dickie and Naismith defended well, and their distribution was, although it was 50-50, you could see a plan in trying to play that long diagonal to get the wide players in space, but that only works if the wide players are good. First half, Bell was. Sykes had one of those mare games. Better performance from Williams and James in midfield. I thought Williams was unlucky to get taken off. And better set pieces. The problem was that was countered by negatives. Knight and Sykes looked really leggy. Continually lost possession, turned the ball over. Poor composure in the final third again. We lacked quality, tempo and control. Shooting was non-existent. It was a defeat, obviously, that's a negative. And we were poor technically. Our first touch, passing the ball and passing it behind the player that's receiving it. We played in a lot of crosses, but most of them were quite poor. And Naki got injured.
Yeah, we don't know quite how bad that is, and he's not a player that stays down when he's injured. Mark, if we look at the team, as we say, week in, week out, it's almost picking itself. There was no George Tanner, so Taylor Gardner-Hickman kept his place on the right. Up front, it was Naki Wells coming back in. I mean, predictable, the lineup, really, wasn't it? Yes?
Yeah, because we're paper thin up there. It's having a player in the middle of that 3 who's capable of holding the ball up or leading the line. So at the moment, in Pearson's mind, it's Perm in between Naki Wells and Harry Cornick. Doesn't want to seem to play Andy Vyman there. He's just being eased back into the side, and your midfield 3. Unless I think that. I don't know. I still would like to see Carl Naismith there, but he trusts him. He wants to play him. At the back, and that's he's the only player that can play there. I think until Rob Atkinson comes back, he won't have a choice to make. So I think we're stuck with those 3. I don't think he'll play Andy King from the start, although King can be quite useful, as he showed when he came on for his brief cameo against Rotherham. But I think we're paper thin. That's why we're stuck with the midfield 3 every single game, and really little choice with the front 3 until Tommy's fully fit. I think Tommy could lead the line. Could he hold on to the ball? I don't know. We want to see him, but yeah, until players are fully fit, we're going to see the same side every week.
Ian, Mark just said that Nigel's rotating Cornick and Wells. I mean, was there, Tommy came on and scored those two wonder goals, two cracking goals on Wednesday night against Rotherham. If you bring him on, Tommy, chasing the game, you might be 2-1 down with 15 minutes to go, or is it better? And after his performance, you say to Tommy, look, I'm going to give you the first half, see if you can carry on where you left off. And what do you take on that point, Ian?
Well, the only option we got is tactical, because at the moment we've got 7 players injured. We started that game yesterday with 6 players injured in a deliberately constructed small squad. So I'll say it again: if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got, and that's where we are. If you have Tommy Conway on your side, you have to give him the ball, and that's the problem. Having Tommy Conway in our side, a fully fit and on-form Tommy Conway, is a little bit like putting a Rolls-Royce engine in a lawnmower.
Yeah,
he'll be the next one to go. The club will want to sell him, as the club now want to sell all their best players. And if we don't succeed this season, and I don't think for a minute we will, on everything I'm seeing, then he'll be the next cab off the rank.
Yeah.
And if he scores a lot of goals, we'll get even more for him. And that's even more to go in the coffers, because at the moment, I think it's fair to say that not enough of the Scott Semenyo money has been or will be reinvested. And if we're mid-table come January the 1st, then you'll see that in spades, that it won't be reinvested.
But it's such a mediocre division this year, Ian. And if you say,
but so are we, Dave.
Yeah, no, I know that. If you're mid-table, we're mid-table now, just slightly below it, and we're only 3 points off the playoffs. Yeah, mm-hmm. If come January, when it's half the season gone and we're 3 points off the playoffs, the clamour from the fans is going to be quite strong, I would say, to at least splash a little bit of cash. Or do you think they might go down the loan route? But then Nigel doesn't like that, does he?
Well, there was a strong clamour for the fans about the Scott money, and you can remind me again how much of that we spent.
Well, there you go.
Until David, until we show some consistency on the pitch, we're not even going to get anywhere near the top 6. I think Cal Naismith alluded to that in his interview. There's just no consistency. What you said, we never really built up any periods of pressure. All the best chance we had to score yesterday were from Cornick's long throws and corners.
All right.
You can't go anywhere just relying on that. You need
pointing the finger at the midfield mark, isn't it?
Well, you need to take some points off the top side. Just 1 or 2 points here. Otherwise, we're always going to be saying we're going to be relying on like a mini league of beating clubs in the middle and the bottom of the table. You've got to try and take some points.
I say again, the mediocrity of the division, and you say about getting consistency. Sides are inconsistent. I mean, if you look at Preston, I think they've lost 3 on the spin at the moment. I watched a bit of Sunderland, Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough gave them a good go in. I didn't see what the sending off was for.
It was for that's very interesting. He basically the player got booked, and he said to the ref, "It's an effing free kick," and the referee said, swear in, second yellow, you're off. And I think that's quite refreshing, because it shows that the referee's in control and there's 0 tolerance this season. So that was it. That's what undid them.
Yeah, and then apparently the referee said to Mowbray before the game he's going to referee the game with humility. But that consistency is only being shown by 2 sides, evidenced by the fact that Ipswich in second are 8 points clear of Preston in third. So there's 5 points separating 12 clubs at the moment. It is ridiculous. I mean, again, we're going to get into the analysis of this game. Ian, it's a quarter of the season gone. Ipswich Town, is this just a fluke, a new division bounce? Because they certainly seem to be being consistent, and I don't see them having splashed the cash in a Mark Ashton-esque type of way. What's the recipe of their success? It seems to be being maintained.
I think a lot of it's to do with their ownership, where they will provide a sufficient amount of money, but they won't let him behave like a greedy kid in a sweet shop, as we did. Well, I say we, Steve. So, but the question of consistency, just to pop back to that very briefly, you'll never be consistent as a team with inconsistent players. So that's your problem. We've got inconsistent players. We've got players who are good and bad from one game to the next.
Yeah.
So that's your problem, and that's all about recruitment. As Mark would say, understanding the DNA of the player.
Not this one.
That's Mark Ashton, not much of it, yeah.
Yeah, and is it a fluke with Ipswich? Well, we'll soon find out. We're playing them a couple of games time, so and we'll have two players come back knackered from international duty who already look knackered against Leeds.
All right.
So,
yeah, it's we see.
I'm not expecting. Dave. I think the difference at Ipswich is Mark Ashton's Mark Ashton, right? But the ownership there are obviously keeping a tighter rein and tighter control on the amount of funds going in. Now, what he has done really well is it looks like he's recruited a very, very good young coach who's been spoke about in quite glowing terms, as he would do for what he's achieved. Bearing in mind, he didn't get them up, get Ipswich up the first season he was there. Second season, they did get up. And now he started well. But no, I don't think it's anything to do with promotion, bounce or momentum, because if you look at Sheffield Wednesday, they're at the other end of the table.
I know, and unbelievably.
So it's not that, but I'm not expecting us to do any better than we are now and finish any higher than we are now, because we'll never get enough players fit and on form. And that's assuming everybody comes back from international duty fit and firing.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the action. Mark, the game was refereed by game was refereed by Keith Stroud, who's probably one of the better referees when you look at the general standard that we've witnessed of late. It seems to have gone down. I know we had a period where we were saying referees, particularly during COVID, there seemed to be, it was okay. We weren't talking about them so much. But let's get into the action. I thought we started brightly, but then on 5 minutes, a penalty appeal. At least we appealed, unlike we did at Rotherham. I don't know whether they listened to this podcast and said we should be screaming at the ref, because yet again, another silly booking. But Rob Dickey was booked for dissent, apparently.
According to the BBC, it was Joe Williams, not
It
Rob.
was. You're right. There was some confusion on the day, wasn't there? Yeah. Anyway, at least we appealed. Mark, in your view, was that a penalty, and do you agree that we started brightly enough?
Yeah, we were getting the ball down the channels. We were doing well, particularly down the left with Sam Bell. But on this occasion, Wells puts in a great cross from a recycled corner, and as far as I'm concerned, Sam Byram falls on, dives on top of Dickey and clatters him. I know this is, you're going to get fed up with me saying this, and listeners, VAR gives it, but the referee doesn't see enough. He's on top of him. If he's preventing him from a goal scoring opportunity, that's a penalty. It just drives me mad. All right, we're picking little bits. That's all we can get because the quality was poor. That was a penalty, but there you go.
Again, you got to blame the linesman to some extent, because the referee was probably positioned like the referee against Rotherham for the Sam Bell rugby tackle incident. He can.
Well, that was.
See...
I mean, oh yeah. Don't get me started on that one. Oh. But this was a penalty.
Yeah, but the linesman, he's over that side.
Yeah.
He's got a good view. But do you think that's a case of, it's at Elland Road, big crowd, they're not going to get it?
I just think, sometimes I've spoken to assistants before years ago, and they say sometimes I don't know whether it's changed, the referee likes to control everything. And sometimes, they even throw-ins, you'll get a nod, but they're all mic'd up.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a clear penalty to me. I don't know if Ian agrees. VAR gives it. Sorry, we haven't got VAR in the Championship, but it's a clear penalty. But there you go.
There you go. Penalty in your view, Ian? What you saw of it?
Yeah.
Stone Wall. At least we appealed this time, though, didn't we? Yeah.
Well, we appealed. If you watch the one at Rotherham back, we appealed there. There were 3 or 4 players running towards the referee with their arms up, but the referee at Rotherham, I think, was incompetent. That was one of Stroud's better games yesterday, apart from that stupid booking for taking the throw 20 yards behind where it was. I really don't see the sense in booking a player for that. Gob is totally different. And as I've said previously on the podcast, I'd fine anybody at least £2,000 for any booking for dissent, because they know, they've been told, I know it's the heat of the moment and all the rest of it, but you just got to control yourself sometimes. But yeah, that was another Stonewall penalty, and we still had Naki on the field at that point. We might have even scored it.
Yeah. They got back into it, got into their stride, as you say. They got quality all over the pitch. You won't delve into how much that they've spent by virtue of their parachute payments. They got Daniel Farker, who's a manager, but he would have been absolutely appalled by what happened. I think it was on about 11 minutes after our good start, where James to Somerville to Rutter. I mean, that was probably one of the worst misses I've seen for many a year.
Yeah, I think that was up there with Ronnie Rosenthal for Liverpool against Villa. Although he arrives onto the ball late. It was one of those. The ball comes across. I think it was a scuff cross, but all he has to do is just knee it in, really, or let the ball hit him rather than put any effort on the ball. And he's 1 yard out at the back post, and he hits it over the bar. It's harder to miss than it is to score. Jorginho Rutter.
I think you would have scored that one, Mark.
Probably, possibly, yeah.
I don't
want to bet. I don't know if I'd have got to the ball. I might have been on the halfway line, when we Zimmer frame. But
yeah. So they missed that one.
He missed it. Embarrassing.
They missed that one, Ian. Then they had Max did a decent save from Ampadu. I mean, it was, I'd say, decent routine. They were starting to get into their stride a bit, but we were still in the game. How much of a blow do you think it was, Ian, losing Naki on the half hour? He's got 2 weeks to recover now, because he's obviously not on international duty. Well, he won't be because he's injured. But was that a big blow to us on the day? Because Cornick hadn't done too bad, I didn't think, against Rotherham.
No, I don't think the form Naki's in, particularly anywhere near the penalty area and shooting in one thing and another. It wasn't a huge blow. It just adds to the list. And bearing in mind he hasn't had the dreaded scan yet, and that tends to be, it's good news. It's not as bad as we thought. He'd be out for 6 weeks. Or I'm sorry, it's bad news. It's another ACL. He hobbled off. He was walking a bit easier as he got round, and he appeared back on the bench in the second half in his going home clothes, I'll call them. But his civvies. But yeah, I mean, was it a blow? Yeah. Was it one of those things? Did it contribute to us losing the game? I don't really think so.
No. And things we're talking about injuries. Have you seen that? Is it Chris Basham? That was just awful one, wasn't it?
Horrendous.
And there was no other player. Was it just the way he got his stud caught in the ground, didn't he, or something with that?
I don't know. It put me in mind of that David Booth one, the Coventry player at Man United.
Yeah, that was about 30 years ago.
Somebody's leg, and it looks like the ankle's just pointing off totally in the wrong direction. It was horrible. But
Chris Basham, this is Sheffield United, is it? Yeah,
he was just running, just caught himself. See,
Bobby was actually, I think I'm right in saying, he was the player that Baker collided with in his last ever game, where he got the concussion.
Yeah, it's possible. Basham's He's come up from League One with them. He's been with them. He's a handful of players.
A stalwart. Is
Bobby
Reid scored in that one yesterday for Fulham, and interestingly, Joe Bryan scored for Millwall. and what have you. Mark, come to you for the goal, their opening goal on 37 minutes. It was building and building. How did you see it?
It was, I mean, yeah, it was building and building and building. Jason Knight, he's on the right side of the penalty area, and basically Glenn Kamara robs him easily. He's trying to shield the ball, just belt the ball out of the area, man. And he's trying to shield the ball, and I think it falls to Rutter. Whose momentum. Kamara's basically won the ball. Rutter takes the momentum and passes the ball across the area to Dan James, who puts it in the right hand corner. But Jason Knight, too weak there. Just belt the ball. Don't try and shield the ball in your own penalty area. You've got two players down on you.
Yeah, it might have been Somerville that put
scruffily, just belt it away.
Now I know Max did a good save after it, but just before that, did Max save from Pirro as well just before, or was that?
Yes. No, it was. Yeah, that was. It was part. We just didn't clear it. We just didn't clear the ball.
That's right. He carried it, didn't he?
The ball hit his stomach. It was really weird. The ball hit him right in the chest, and they recycled the ball. But we've done this before this season. I mean, for goodness sake, just belt the ball away or put in a tackle. Just don't mess around. It was an awful way to concede a goal. They looked like they were going to score, but why give them a chance?
I know. Ian, Mark's pointed a little bit of a finger at Jason Knight. I know we've spoken a couple of times offline, and you've probably said it on here. Knight is, not doubting he's a good player, but some of the plaudits he's been getting a little bit overstated, and he should have done better there, wasn't he? Because he was facing his own goal, and he just allowed himself to be robbed in a dangerous situation. He could have conceded it for a corner if he knew he was losing possession. What was your take on the goal?
It was his fault. I mean, it's as simple as that. You don't go for a mazy dribble in your own penalty area. I'm all for playing out if you've got the ability to do it, but when you're surrounded and it's in the penalty area, as Mark correctly said, he could have kicked that ball out for a throw-in.
Yeah.
And I don't mind when someone's under pressure doing that. Just don't overplay and cock it up. And over the last few games, I don't think he's been very good. And I know for some City fans, that's a little bit like saying God doesn't exist. But it's a fact. And, I base my opinions on what I see. I don't base my opinions on how good somebody is or is meant to be. And this thing that you came out with about people are saying he should be at a top 6 Premier club. And at the time, I remember the word I used rather unkindly. I said, well, they must be morons then if they think they're...
Well, it might have been a load of drunken Irish people after he'd been man of the match against Netherlands.
Well, I mean, that's like that's a bit like the Donald Trump thing, people are saying. Yeah, well, a lot of people say a lot of stupid things, don't they? It doesn't make it a fact. So that's why I call the eat poo 7 billion flies can't be wrong argument. So I think, no, he needs a rest. And that's why I'm slightly critical. He'll be trooping off on international duty. I know the club can't help it.
No, it is what it is. We got a little trio of them all together,
Yeah, and it's not something sensible. I mean, he looks knackered. He looks like he could do with a rest. And I've said it previously. He was playing. I know he's played Championship football before. It was pointed out by somebody who was making comments on the podcast. He's played over 100 Championship games, but he didn't play them last season. And he's moved to a different club. He's playing more consistently in one position because he played all over the place for Derby. The last 6 or 7 games of the season, he played 4 different positions, including left wing. So, he'd give Wyman a game in that position. If Tanner's fit.
Well, we'll talk about the
midfield instead.
later. I mean,
Can I just say something? With Jason Knight, he's got the energy and the ability to make the late runs into the area, but nobody's feeding in the ball to be able to do that. I mean, he's able to pop up everywhere.
We're coming back to that
Yeah,
old problem.
that's the problem. I think
midfield.
this is a utopia, because will we ever get there? If he had some, like a Cal Naismith, who was playing in midfield, then he could perhaps play a bit further forward. He's in that midfield three, and he could play the number 10 role, and he could arrive late on the ball. At the moment, we haven't got the luxury, if you like. And God, we're talking about luxuries of being able to do that. Yeah. So he's feeding on scraps. We're just not able to get him in the game. But midfielders have also got to provide defensive cover, and he's not doing that. When you go from defensive cover to defensive liability, then you've got a problem.
Yeah. Anyway, so there we are, 1-0 down, half-time approaching, and we're thinking, well, that's not too bad. I actually placed a bet yesterday, and it was sort of draw at half-time, Leeds at full-time, and I bet on Leeds as well, because I thought, I'm going to get something out of my Saturday. And
Traitor, David.
I put 30.
I'm reporting you to the FA.
Yeah, no, I just put 30 quid on Leeds. Yeah, I didn't get much. 20. I put 20.
Did you give Ivan Toney? Did you give Ivan Toney a ring?
I didn't give Ivan Toney a ring. I put 20 quid. I put 20 quid on Leeds, so that was a payout on 30, and then I did half time, full time. That paid out. Only put 2 quid on that, and then I thought I'll have a little dabble. I put a draw, which is the one that I lost. But anyway. Just as
how much did you win? Come on, you've gone that far.
Total £14.65. There we go.
Oh well, no well.
4 minutes.
I can see why you didn't mention it now. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it wasn't great. 4 minutes into time added on for Naki's injury. So although Naki didn't score, the fact that he was injured created the extra time for our goal. And Mark, we've got our own version of Rory Delap in Harry Cornick. I mean, it was his throw that was struggled behind. Well, not ended up going for a corner. TGH took it. Naismith header. That was unexpected, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, I nearly spat my tea over the screen watching that. I mean, yeah, it was a good corner from Hickman. And he arrived on a ball, but yeah, totally unexpected, because we expect half of our corners to be played short now, or give it back to the opposition and then defend a transitional attack. But it was great. He arrived on the ball, and Cal Naismith, I don't think he gets the goals he deserves. He won the corner because Ari's Armour came in. And he swiveled, and his shot was deflected for the corner in the first place. So that was well worth it. But totally, again, a total shot for City to score from a corner, but put it away, and that was fantastic. 1-1 at half time, perhaps undeserved, but who cares?
Who cares? That comes as a surprise to you, Ian. The goal, and it was a decent corner from Taylor Garner-Hickman, because when he can take a dead ball kick like that, as somebody said, I think it was on the OTIB or it might have been Twitter feed, it gives the heading ability of Naismith in the box. But nice to get it at that time. Crucial, really, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I mean, well, you said it all, really. Good corner, good header. And Leeds aren't very good at defending set pieces, are they?
No.
If there's been criticism of Max, I wouldn't swap him for the lad they've got, Melier.
Who cost them money.
Who cost a lot of money.
He punches the ball half the time. He punches everything.
Yeah. So no, I'd decent goal, header from a corner, which is very unusual for us. Decent corner, which is very unusual for us. So well done.
Yeah. Okay, I'll stick with you into the second half. And how many did they have there at Leeds? Was it over 30,000? Obviously, yeah? 36,000, probably one of the biggest crowds of the day in the whole country, because there's only 4 Premiership games. But, the crowd weren't particularly vociferous, but they had something to cheer. Poor goal to concede again. Take us through the goal as you saw it, Ian.
Well, Joe Pirot, they signed from Swansea, who was playing behind Rutter in a 4-2-3-1, was totally unmarked on the edge of the box. had a fair bit of time, so he wasn't marked. Naismith didn't get close enough to him to close him down. He shot, the ball went through Naismith's legs, and Max looked either unsighted or flat-footed as the ball went. I won't say it trickled, but it wasn't a rocket by any means, and it went into his bottom left-hand corner. I think he should have done better with it, but he seemed flat-footed to start with, so he was either unsighted or he just wasn't ready for the shot and thought it would be blocked.
And Naismith, you say, not covering a player. It was Pirro's 5th goal of the season. I mean,
yeah.
If we look at the last 4 games, he's been involved in critical moments. Certainly Stoke's 3rd goal, we picked him up for not tracking his man there. Is this part of him? The manager fancies him as a defender, but he's just not got that defensive mindset of getting the right side of the attacker.
Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, if he doesn't play there, who does? The second thing is, do I think he's better in midfield? Yeah. And if Rob Atkinson was fit, Rob Atkinson would be playing there and Carl would be playing in midfield, possibly to the expense of Joe Williams.
Yeah.
So, okay. Or you could even, at the moment, if you wanted to play a true 4-3-3, you could leave Jason Knight out. But it's, and then I think it depends, are you playing home or are you playing away?
You leave Jason Knight out of that, then you've got no pace in the middle at all. Because, I mean, Matty James, I looked at him yesterday and he's just there. He's just protecting the back 4 because you're not seeing him going on any lung-busting runs or anything like that.
Well, but that's not the player he is. And Naismith, no. you know what you're going to get with Carl Naismith. You know what you're going to get with Matty James. And you know what you're going to get with Joe Williams, which comes to my point. If you haven't got anyone else that can play there, who'd you play? I mean, the alternative is you blood one of the youngsters like Arroyo or Campbell Slowey in that defensive position.
Knight LaBelle.
Not necessarily.
Knight LaBelle's right-sided.
All right.
Yeah. I don't agree. There is a change he could make, and he was forced to last season, but he's obviously doesn't want to do it. Is to move Cam Pring back to left centre back, and where he was playing, and he was playing Jay Da Silva at the end of the season, wasn't he? With the injuries last season, so he could do that. And that will give him the ability to move Naismith forward and play. We could play more risk and reward football. But going back to that goal, Kamara was behind Pirro as well. There was nobody tracking back, covering that ball. Naismith should have been closer to Pirro, but there was nobody. Kamara was behind him, so we just didn't cover that position at all. It was that's the problem.
Well, 2-1 to them, and then the substitutions. The first of 2 by substitutions. Taylor Gardner-Hickman goes off, King comes on, and then Joe Williams comes off, Tommy Conway comes on. I hadn't seen before, but from any of our players of late, although apparently it's not the first time Williams has done so, but he didn't look too happy about coming off, Joe Williams, did he, Mark?
No, he was very annoyed. The camera pans to him on the bench. I mean, that's a good thing, when a player looks annoyed to be coming off, but I think the feeling was he was, one of our better midfield players. Perhaps we're setting the bar a bit low, but he wasn't any worse than James. He was miles better than Jason Knight. Was he the right person to be coming off? It meant a rejig, a little bit in the formation. I don't know if it made a lot of difference, but yeah, he was really peed off to come off.
Yeah, and we say a rejig in the formation. It was putting Mark Sykes at right back, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah, which he can do. He's done that before.
But at least it involves him in the game a little bit more back there, because I think for 2 games running he's been crap.
Well, he just wasn't really. We never saw him take on his fullback when the opportunity was there early in the game to stretch the game, but we already got a peep out of Sykes in that game. He just disappeared.
Yeah. Ian, the first pair of substitutions, TGH for King. I mean, it's TGH for King. I mean, really, it was Williams, King coming into midfield, wasn't it? Yes, is that right? And then Sykes and then allowing Tommy Conway to come on. What did you think of those two and the timing?
I thought that I was glad Tommy came on. I don't think Joe Williams should have been taken off. I could understand him being slightly peeved when the obvious substitution was to get Knight off and get Conway into the team, and that's less disruptive. You could swap Andy King out if you want a bit more composure in midfield. I'll give you that. But no, I at the time I would have. That was a substitution. In fact, I'd have made that substitution at half time, so that Conway could play that slightly deeper central role, or if you wanted to, do what I've suggested doing on a few occasions and play two up top. It's not illegal.
Well, we keep saying that, Ian, playing two up top, and but as you say, we keep doing the same thing week in, week out. He's set on this format that he derived by virtue of having a crap Christmas, and then we've been playing this way ever since Swansea away in the cup, isn't it? But the man is not for turning, it would seem. I had got a note here of a little chance for them when Somerville put in a shot. Max touched that onto the bar, but I'll stick with you, Ian. The second set of substitutions come in on 66 minutes, so a little bit risky because by then we've used all five with still a quarter of the game remaining. But Knight finally going off for Vyman, and then Sam Bell being replaced by Mehmeti at last, getting some minutes on the pitch. The timing and the contribution of those players as you saw it for the remainder of the game.
Well, the contribution was poor from both of them. I think you can understand why he's not been bringing Mehmeti on. He's preferred to bring Roberts on, who has got a left foot. And to Mark's point about moving Cam, bringing one, yes, it would release Naismith into midfield, but once again, you're playing people in positions they can play as opposed to their best position. And I don't think Roberts is quite good enough defensively to play there at the moment against the better teams in the Championship. He might come in and prove me totally wrong, but if I was seeing Roberts in the side, it would probably be in front of Pring on that wide left midfield position, which I know he wouldn't say is his best position. But with those substitutions, I thought Mehmeti, he started okay, but as soon as they found out he always wanted to pull the ball back on his right foot, he did put in one half-decent cross with his left foot, but he wasn't really in the game. And towards the end of the game, we tired, and we really couldn't give them the ball enough. And Mehmeti,
I think he's playing with fear, Mehmeti. I think he's frightened.
Well, I think you're right, Dave. I think he's not the confident, cocky lad that arrived here. And we seem to have coached half a yard of ability out of him.
We coached the maverick out of him, which was the main reason for signing him. I mean,
he was playing against Archie Gray, part of the Gray dynasty, with Eddie and Frankie and young Andy and now him, who's 17 years old, who grew into the game and looked very mature, very confident in terms of tackling and carrying the ball forward. And like I said, he's only 17 and looks a very good prospect for them. But with Mehmeti, he tries to show that he's on the left-hand side, always looking to go back onto his right foot. And 2 or 3 opportunities he had in near the corner flag, lost the ball, and then we're defending back another 60 yards. Perhaps sometimes he needed a little bit more support, but I just take the ball, go for the man on the outside, and try and win a corner. Just do something, mix it up a little bit. If you're gonna, it's just so predictable when you go back on your right and on your right foot. The defender's thinking, nice, I'll just take it off you, and then you're defending.
And away you go. And that young lad, Gray, certainly did that. Good to see we've got, I think it's a Leeds contributor on the chat feed here, just backing up what I'd said that somebody else had put on Twitter. Darren said, good yesterday. Nice to see a team come to Elland Road and try and play for 3 points rather than sit back and hold on for a draw. And then he said, we looked a decent team and the season's still early doors. Wouldn't be surprised if they're there or thereabouts for playoff positions. Very nice of you to say that, Darren. I wish we shared your confidence, and we try and be as upbeat as we can. Mark, I'll stick with you. Andy Weimann, he's just not a shadow of the player he was now. The season before last, he had a chance very late on, similar, as somebody showed, to what he had at Leicester, the ball going right over the far side of the post, and a difficult angle to shoot. He shot again this time. It was blocked by Byram. But him and Williams and King and James, 4 players are out of contract in the summer. Would you, it's different, would you, it's not us, it's Nigel or what the budget goes to. Would you, which of those, let me ask you that, which of those players would you give a new contract to next summer, of that quartet?
So that's Weimann,
James, Williams and King.
Williams and James. I think I think we may have seen the best of Weimann, although when he was doing well, it was in a decent front three. I don't think he's playing in his best position, which is down the centre or as a number 10. Nigel prefers to play him on the right hand side of that three in a 4-2-3-1. So is he in the best position? We don't know. But okay. I give Matty James a 1-year contract considering his age. Williams at a push. But I mean, of those 4 players, are they going to make us any better? Are we going to go anywhere with those 4 players? And that's the question. Yeah. But if they go, are we going to replace them with any? We probably could replace them with like for like, but we're going to be shopping in League One or League 2. And every time we talk about spending money now, I think of those 2 words that Steve Lansdowne said that nest egg, and recoiled, because it looks like we just want to sell our best players. I know lots of teams sell their best players, but City seems to be minded to do that and build up a pile of cash that's not reinvested. It's just going back to the owner because he wants the club to be more sustainable. So we're just going to be mid-table looking down, or even further down looking up.
Ian, I'll ask you the same question. That quartet that I've just named, I mean, Andy King's probably going to get a coaching contract. I don't know whether Pearson's better friends with King or James. Maybe he'd give them both coaching contracts. But I'm asking you, who would you give contracts to off that 4?
Well, Mark, looking at Mark's point, he's quite correct. It depends who else we can buy. If you can't sign better players than that, firstly, you're not going to do any better than you have previously, because they won't get better as they get older. But it does come to the point, who can we sign that's better than them? And if you can sign 4 players, I mean, Andy King will move into coaching, possibly not with us. But I think if we can get better players than those, then you say, thanks, lads, bye. If we can, then you do your best to sign them on slightly extended deals, which, if it's only a 1-year deal and they can get something, say, for 3 years in League One, at this stage of their career, they might think, well, possibly better off doing that. Or they might get a 2-year deal. Say, for example, James can't get, is offered a 1-year deal here. He might get a 2-year deal. It's somewhere like Coventry or Huddersfield or
Portsmouth if they got promoted from League One.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about if he wanted to stay in the Championship. So, Millwall's another club that might think, I
mean, for what it's worth, I think I would give Matty James a contract. I think King will be a coaching contract either with us or, as you say, could be elsewhere. Williams and Weimann, no. I mean, we're seeing, with what we've seen of Joe Williams, we've had more minutes of him on the pitch, but I don't know what he offers. He's not creative. He doesn't score. You know, he gives away rash tackles sometimes. Witness the Rotherham game, early doors there. You know, what is Joe Williams? And I'm sorry, but Andy
But
Weimann...
with his dissent, he's got 3 bookings now. A couple more of those, and he's got a 1 match ban.
Yeah.
I think
And
he's been
Andy
better
Weimann,
this season.
look, I've never been a fan of Andy.
I think he's better this season than he has been. But when he scored goals last season, it was away games where he arrived late on the ball against Rotherham and West Brom. We just don't see him making those deep runs. We don't see him at home doing that. I don't know. He might be a victim of how poor we're playing, but at the end of the day, he's got to make the difference, and
he doesn't. And Ian's just said he's the one that gets left out of the midfield trio for Naismith when we've got a decent back four.
Well, we say that, but I think I can only think of one game where because of Naismith's injuries last season, where he played there, and it gave us all this fantastic luxury vision of Naismith playing with Scott in the West Brom game in the FA Cup, where Naismith was great in central midfield. Yeah. He broke up play. He passed the ball brilliantly, and enabled Scott to play further forward. And we thought, oh, that's going to be like that the rest of the season. Then he got injured, and it disappeared.
Yeah, it certainly did. No, look, you know my view is on Weimann. I think he had his golden boot season was the season before last. As everybody said, he played in a front three that was, you know, we didn't expect it to do as well as it did in terms of our league position wasn't great, but as a unit, they played well as a unit, and Weimann benefited there. I don't see a player who's coming on and really altering the game. Now, interesting, we still got Darren Brown with us on the chat feed here. He doesn't hear us every week, so because he's saying, do you think comparing Bristol players against what is effectively a Leeds Premiership squad, a fair appraisal? Losing 2-1 is not too bad a result and shows they are at least competitive. What do you say to that comment, Ian? I mean, you know, we are known as the miserable old gits, the hypercritical, non-affiliated to the club podcast, unlike others I won't mention. But do you think Darren's got a fair point that we're just piling in? And it was Leeds, you know, and they were in the Premier League for the last couple of 3 seasons.
Well, I was looking at Leeds' home form, and it's not like they've blown teams away and won lots of games. And that could be because, as Darren said, sides have gone there and sat in. But if you then move to Leeds away, their record is played 5, won 2, drew 1, lost 2. And they've only scored 8 goals and conceded 7. So, I mean, it's not a terrible away record, but it puts them 9th in the division as an away side. So I think you can keep saying that. People said it a lot last season with Watford in clubs. Well, they've got parachute money, so what? We just give them the 3 points and don't turn up. It's thinking that keeps us mediocre.
Yeah, and you say that about parachute money, and if you look at the top 6 as it stands today, Leicester, yes, Ipswich, no, Preston, no, Sunderland, no, Leeds, yes, Birmingham, no. Yeah? So there's something.
So we've got to stop this, we are not worthy way of going about playing football. Well, you know, if we can go there and get something, and you know, people using this expression free hit, is to say, well, we're not that good. And it puts me in mind of when you're a League One club and you draw Man City, and you just go out there and you have a lovely day out, and you take a lot of fans who normally wouldn't cross the road to watch you, and off you go. And I think we've got to get over that.
Well, we had that mentality at Leicester a fortnight ago, wasn't it? We took 3,500 fans out. Oh, look, we're playing against the 2016 league champions. Oh, it's a lovely day out. Look, we're all up from Bristol. Whoopee-doo, you know?
Yeah, exactly right. And I'd rather do what Cal Naismith said and you know, perhaps not be as popular with fans of other clubs, but start winning a few games. Because, you know, that's the last 3 games. That's a home defeat to Stoke, a terrible performance saved by Tommy Conway at Rotherham, and another defeat at Leeds. So we're about, as I said, where we are in the table.
We've lost 3 out of 4. We've lost 3 out of the last 4. Mark,
Yeah.
Cal Naismith did an interview after the game that was said to be refreshingly honest. You heard the interview. I've sort of listened to part of it. The question that was missing for me should have been, what is it that Luton had that we don't have? Because he talked about quality. I know he talked about quality in the team, but what did you think of that interview? And, that's a valid question. What did Luton have that we haven't? Is it a method of play, an identity? Because,
Yeah, they had an identity. 2 big forwards in Carlton Morris and something like
that.
No, what's the guy's name? Adebayo. And some good fullbacks. They were solid, and it was a 2-year project. I mean, these things sometimes are a 1-year project if you look at Barnsley, because the wages aren't going to be enormous, but there are players like Petty, oh God, I can't remember his name, the double-barreled name, midfielder who've been there since they were in League 2, who've come up, or in non-league. In non-league, who've come up, and the belief is there, and they brought in some loan players, and they got an identity. They know how to play. They're confident. They're solid. They play percentages sometimes, and that's the difference. It's just sometimes in terms of the decision making, and I bet they can't. They don't get the injury problems that we do, and they're able to dig out results on a consistent basis.
Well, they haven't. I mean, they've been found out this season because although they won at Everton last week, they lost in midweek to Burnley, didn't they?
I mean, Luton, comparatively, they're punching way above their weight playing in the Premier League. But fair play to them. People might sneer at them, but I'd rather be has been than there never was.
They got there. I mean, we've waited.
They got there through results and hard work and an identity. And we would love to be in their position. We would love to be there. I don't care. They got a result at Everton. They're going to find it hard because, like a lot of the teams, it's scoring goals. It's scoring goals in the Premier League that's difficult. Same thing with Sheffield United this season. They brought on the likes of Cameron Archer. They splashed the cash a bit, but they can't score goals. I mean, the other week they were that close to beating Spurs, but they conceded 2 goals in injury time. That's the difficulty when you get to the Premier League. Half chances get put in the back of the net. You cannot give quality players an inch in the Premier League. Yeah. But we would love to swap places with them. They've done brilliantly. Crap grounds. But they got an identity. They got a group of players that work their asses off. They play a certain style, and that's why they're in the Premier League. We haven't got any consistency. We can't keep the players fit. Our recruitment isn't that great by comparison, and we're a mid-table championship team. What do we want to do about it? Ian, you don't have to spend a fortune, but you have to recruit well.
You've summed it up. It's just so bloody frustrating, And I'm sat here looking at the league table at the moment. I wonder how Cardiff fans are feeling. I mean, they got a new manager. They haven't exactly splashed the cash. You look at West Brom. I mean, they've seen better days. Look at Coventry.
Well, financially, they're right in this. They're right in hock, aren't they? They're millions.
Middlesbrough now have put together a run of form. It's me. We're all having the same. I mean, Preston, what was it? They've lost 3 in a row now. But Ian,
I think they got rid of a few players, and I think they were punching above their weight. So they've done well. It's been like a pacemaker who's being caught at the moment. But Preston started the season really well. They did something similar last season without the goals. Last season they went 7 games without conceding. So they've done well. So
what's the answer, Ian? What is the bloody answer? Because we are becoming, on this podcast, we're becoming, we could almost record and edit the teams out for when we play a top team or a mediocre performance. We're saying the same old thing week in, week out. And you've said on more than one occasion, if you keep doing the same thing, you'll keep doing the same thing. So what's got to bloody change?
Well, what's got to change is the inertia that we find ourselves in at the moment. We're a club and a team that's going nowhere. And we're very pleased with ourselves. As we said in the podcast last week, I think a lot of our fans would be happy to stay in the Championship and see more of the same, which strikes me as odd. But unfortunately, that's where we are. It is. The amount of people that I used to go with and see down there that when I bump into now, or they ring me up or I ring them up and they say, I haven't been down there for 3 or 4 games. Oh no, I didn't bother with a season ticket. And that's a lot of people. Now, fortunately for the club, those people appear to have been replaced by I suppose it's a younger generation of fans that have come in, and perhaps their expectations aren't as high. But at the moment, we've got inertia, and I think we
have no inertia. We're just treading water, aren't we?
Yeah, it's a complete. Well, I don't know. We're like in stall mode, if you will, or on pause, waiting for something to happen. And then what I say to people who say, well, we need to improve this and we think we can improve that. And how's it going to happen? Are we suddenly going to get all the players fitting on form? Okay, we had Chris Honor on the pod during the week, said you'll never get that at any football club. And to Mark's point about Luton, the first season Luton made the playoffs, they had an awful number of injuries. They still came through. And I think that goes to the character of the club. It goes into the leadership at the club. And I'm talking about top level leadership. I'm not talking about the manager and the coach or the coach. I'm talking about the owners, the board. And I just think that there is that, I don't know, I'll call it a mediocrity. I think mediocrity is embraced by some people as being some kind of success. As I say, I don't understand it. But for some people, I mean, you've only got to look at how well our attendances have held up to think that my opinion is probably in a minority. Some people seem to, they're still there. They still enjoy it. Now, what would happen if we got relegated? I don't know. But Ashton Gate is a very different ground than it used to be. It's not as hostile as it once was. That you don't get that. I'm not saying an atmosphere. You do get an atmosphere, but it's not the. I don't know.
It's not Fortress Ashton like it used to be. Okay.
Well, people said that about Leeds. Yeah.
Sorry, we've never been at one of the clubs that, like Millwall, were unbeaten for about.
Oh no, we're not like that. But there were years when we.
We're not very good at home. That's where most of the people watch the football, and
they're accepting mediocrity by look at
look at the ticket sales. I mean, we're still getting.
We're still getting 5,000, between 4,000 and 5,000 £1 a day, and that's on the back. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the attendances are for the next couple of games. Sorry, Mike, you were going to make a point just a moment ago.
Well, even Leeds. So I've heard Leeds fans say, when you get rid of big open terraces and the scratching shed, that hostility, because you have all-seater stadia and nice new stands which do sanitize support. Leeds. I remember Leeds fans saying it's now a teddy bear pit compared to a bear pit. You just don't get the opportunity. Yeah. It just sanitizes the sound quality and the hostility that comes with upgrades. But I think it all comes down to we bang on about how great we are as a club. We do well in the community. We got nice training facilities. by God, why do we call it a high performance centre? We're making a rob for our own back there. But at the end of the day, it's not matched by performances on the pitch and entertainment. And Ian is right. The support's holding up. The support is there for a Premier League club. The facilities are there for a Premier League club.
Yeah.
May behind in terms of entertainment and
Mindset. It's
performance.
mindset. It's a mindset. Just to pick up on Darren, who's been a welcome contributor today on the text. Do we think Preston and Ipswich can maintain their form and position in the league? And once injuries start to take effect, do they have strength in depth? I think the answer is that Preston's form has gone a little bit out of the window now anyway. Ipswich, their backroom team is people that were backroom team at Ashton Gate under the Ashton era. And we all said part of the problem we had with injuries, not only this season, but for the seasons prior to this, was down to their inadequacies. So, they seem to have got it right so far. Have Ipswich got strength in depth? Or Preston, I would say, no, they haven't. But there we go. Okay,
but
look,
they scored 20, but they're top scorers in this division. They're entertaining. They're scoring more than 2 goals a game. They're playing risk and reward football, and that's great for them. Their fans will be happy.
And that's down to the coach. And Wes Burns is a regular starter in their side that didn't make it with us. So we got a week off, which is very nice to have. Then we've got a batch of 5 before the next international break, which go Coventry at home, Mark Ashton's Ipswich at home, Cardiff away, Sheffield Wednesday home, QPR away. I'm surprised Gareth Ainsworth is still in a job, because they seem to get beaten with repeated regularity. The same thing. I want 10 points. I want 10 points from the next 5 games. Is that achievable, Mark?
Yes, if we show some consistency. So we got Coventry. Just go through those again, David.
Coventry and Ipswich home, Cardiff away, Sheffield Wednesday home, QPR away.
I don't see why we can't beat Cardiff, Sheffield Wednesday, and QPR. But then again, we're Bristol City. I mean, it took us 40 years to get a win at QPR, and I think we won 5 on the bounce now. So, why shouldn't we beat QPR away? Everybody else is doing it, so why shouldn't we?
Well,
Sheffield Wednesday are just awful this season. Why they got rid of Darren Moore, God only knows. They're just, they haven't won a game this season. That was a stupid thing to do, unfair to Darren Moore, considering what he did in the playoff semi-final and getting him over the line in the final against Barnsley, rewarded with the sack, was bloody awful decision. And Cardiff are Cardiff, but I think Coventry around about where we are in the league. They've only lost 2. They've drawn 6 and won 3. So they're about where they are. I've lost good players in Gyökeres, brought in Ellis Sims. Harmer's gone to Sheffield United as well, but they still trying to play football. And the Mark Robbins, somebody we perhaps would like to
Robbins,
see. We would like to see it.
Like an infatuation with him, obviously.
Yeah, well, he's done very well in two spells at Coventry and gotten very close to Premier Leagues this season. He's done well. We would like to have been in their position. 10 points. Why not? But until we show some consistency, that could go up the Swanee, couldn't it? I think Ian would agree.
Ian, what do you think? I mean, I'd like to get 10. I look at 10. Yeah.
I would think the most I can see looking at those games you've listed is 8.
Right.
8 points from 15, and that's with 2 wins and 2 draws and 1 defeat. To be honest, Dave, I honestly, if you asked me to make a prediction for the Coventry game at home and the Ipswich game at home,
wouldn't have a clue, would we?
I'd be absolutely. I wouldn't be confident. I'd be absolutely delighted if we could pick up 4 points.
Yeah,
those 2. Cardiff is a derby, and as we know, that can go either way. Hopefully, Tommy will be back fully fit in fire and in starting for all those, because we simply aren't good enough as a team to leave him out. And then Wednesday, I mean, look, we know we are the kings of turnaround for other clubs. And that goes back decades, where a club's totally out of form. They've hardly scored a goal, never mind won a game all season. They come to Ashton Gate and they win.
Where the Patses, players coming back
It
after.
would never
Yeah.
surprise me if Wednesday came down and it was their first away win or their first win.
Yeah, I can remember Crystal Palace. This was on Match of the Day. Let me just say this:
the Alan Whittle game. Dave,
you're going to remember it. November 1973. Crystal Palace hadn't had a single win all season, and they came to Ashton Gate. It was on Match of the Day, one of those rare occasions. You remember it. God, aren't we sad bastards, Ian, that we can remember a match that was almost exactly 50 years ago?
Not so much of the sad.
But I reckon to the day, because we're playing Sheffield the first weekend in November, I reckon that was the first week in November that we lost that.
Well, to my point, Dave, it wouldn't surprise me if they came down and won. And as I was saying, there was a guy sat next to me who said, "Oh, I get down here about 2 games a season." I brought my dad down, and he's a season ticket holder, but he's not so good on his legs anymore. So I come down with him to look after him a bit. And he said, what do you think the result's going to be against Stoke? And I said, I've got absolutely no idea. I don't fancy us to win. I don't necessarily think we're going to lose.
We don't know. We don't know.
Could be a draw. I just don't know, because we're not this consistency again. And if you've got inconsistent players, then you're going to have an inconsistent team. And that's where unfortunately where we finished up.
And it's how consistent amidst the mediocrity of the division we can be, because to put it in never mind the midweek results, but if you look at like Southampton a week ago, they beat Leeds 3-1. Yeah, then Southampton won away in midweek, and then we won away at Rotherham, and then Rotherham go to Southampton, and Rotherham get a point at Southampton yesterday. And Southampton were a Premiership team last season. It just we don't know. I mean, 10 would be absolutely brilliant. 8, as you said, Ian, would be okay. Yeah. Anything less, if you're starting down, getting in the 7 and 6, you then, because after this next batch of 5, we are 1 game over a third of the way through the season. So we're on 15 points now. We want to be on a number of points that begins with a 2. Otherwise, yeah, the Pearson index, and certainly with the owner, I just wonder whether he's sort of gearing himself up for, a change in the new year if we start stumbling. I have to say, I think if we started stumbling towards the bottom of the table in the bad zone, we're not that many points away from that. Could we see ourselves getting out of it? And don't even want to talk about that now, because we're not there. But if we did get on this downward spiral through poor inconsistency, it could be a very worrying new year, particularly as there's going to be no money. I don't think he's going to spend if we're struggling. I don't think he's going to spend if we're within touching distance. And as we are at the moment, we're in touching distance. Final point from Darren on there. Good to see how Bristol do against Ipswich. Good marker for your aspirations. Yeah, I'd agree with that. And as Ian said, if we could get 4 points from the upcoming 2 home games, just like we did a few weeks ago.
Dave, it would never surprise me to see us lose against Coventry and beat Ipswich.
What you do know is that we're unlikely to win 2 games on the spin, because if we beat Coventry,
they're
how many years again? Over 50 years. Oh look, get excited on the Saturday. Oh look, we're home again on Tuesday. Oh, yeah, big disappointment. Yeah. Big disappointment. Only time that ever changed once. You're probably season before you started going, Ian. This was season 69-70. God, my memory is doing somersaults today. 69-70. We played Norwich at home on a Saturday, early September, and it was 0-0 at half-time. The crowd were chanting "Dick's out," because the manager at the time was Alan Dix. We ended up stuffing Norwich 4-0 on the Saturday.
Oh, well, it's Charlton.
And then on the Tuesday night, beat Charlton 6-0. 10 goals with none conceded in 2 home games. What we'd settle for that. Mark, Ian, thanks for your contribution. We'll be back after the Coventry game on a Sunday. It'll be a fortnight today recording that. Thanks for all our listeners. Record number of people today listening to the live feed. So thanks for joining us on your Sunday morning.
And thanks, Darren Brown.
Yeah, and thanks to Darren Brown for
good luck the rest of the season. Yeah. Good luck the rest of the season, Darren.
Yeah, good luck to you guys, Leeds and marketing. And thanks, everybody. Thanks. Have a great couple of weeks before we see you again. All the best, everyone. Bye-bye now.
Cheers all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.